and welcome to another hobby cheating video. And today's will probably be a fairly quick one, but I think it's still interesting because there's a lot of good stuff to learn here. Today we're gonna talk about painting brick, and basically we're gonna use the paints you see out here. So you'll notice I've already got some brick laid down, and I'm laying brick. What have I done to get to this point? Well, you can see over here. Basically, I did some zenithal highlighting, black primer, sprayed some white over the top. Then I washed the whole thing in Seraphim Sepia just to tint it brown. Okay? And then I just took some fresh blood from Game Effects straight out of the pot, and I painted each brick. Now, that's a little glossy. That's okay. Don't worry about that. We'll handle that later. But I really love this color, and you can see there that it's got kind of some rich, when it works over this. And what I did before I put this red on was just dry brush it with some light sand. So if you go back and watch the video about preparing for your best paint job, I did those steps. Zenithal highlighting, wash, dry brush. All just under shading prep. Nothing more. So where we pick up here is I applied a base coat of the fresh blood. Straight out of the pot, applied it on. I didn't think you probably needed to see that. I think you know how to take paint out of a bottle and paint it on. One note to make is that I did not just slop it on. You'll notice that I did paint kind of each individual brick. I didn't take a long time. Here, I'll do a little more while we're sitting here on camera. But I literally just took the blood, the fresh blood, and kind of went over each brick. Just like that. Now, if you don't have the Vallejo Game Effects set or this color, that's okay. Any kind of browny, dark orange red will work. Basically, what you want for your brick is a low intensity red orange with some brown undertones to it. That's the key. You want to stay away from any kind of purple red, definitely. So it can't have any purple in it, and you want to stay away from anything too bright with like a lot of sort of fire to it. But what we're going to do over this video is take this brick, which, on its own with the undershading, honestly, you could stop here. You don't need to watch the video. Like, oh, okay, I just go buy this color and do the preparing for the miniature thing and paint it over top and call it a day. Yeah, sure, you could stop there. But obviously, we're going to do a little more. So the first thing we're going to do is I want to make sure I darken up some of the lower parts. And as with anything like this brick, in the span of this base, like you can see, it's got these kind of clay tiles and dirt and stuff all over. This has been sitting out for just who knows how long, right? This is exposed to the elements. You can see like little bullet holes or cracks or whatever. This should not look clean. This brick did not just get laid down, right? So we need to mess this up. That's the key. And so to mess it up, you can see it still looks wet. It's not. Just the fresh blood is glossy. Hence another reason why, but I'm not worried about that. You could knock that out with like some Testra's Dull Coat to finish it, or we could do what we're going to do, which is get out our old friend, Agrax Earthshade. Guaranteed to knock the shine out of anything. So, we're just going to take our Agrax, and now I'm just going to go ahead and wash it all over. Now, I'm not going to let it pool too insanely. Like, I don't want any big, giant clumps, but I want to make sure we really get down there in the cracks, and I want to make sure we get a nice layer of it all throughout, because what I want, there's a lot of little beautiful texture in this brick, and that's what I want to pick out. Okay? So I'm just going to get that on there, make sure it's down in all the little spots, and you'll see I didn't let it pool anywhere significantly. I just ran a nice coat over. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry, because obviously that's a wash. It's going to take a minute. I'm doing some pre-washing here of my just undershading. That's an important thing to think about. When you know you're painting something else later, if you've got a wash or you're doing something, what could you do to set yourself up for more success later? So for example, I know I want this part of the clay to be in shadow. Why not give it a little wash of my Agrax down here? That way when I go to put the actual color over it, which is going to be sort of an orangey clay, which I know is very translucent, I can play with undershading a lot. Boom, I've already got another layer of paint ready to go at that time. Took me no extra time. So, I'm going to let this dry. We'll be back in a minute. Alright, and we're back. Everything is dry. We still got a little bit of a shine there, but again, that's going to come out. So, what are we going to do? Well, we want to add a lot of different color here to create some tonal variation. You can see there with the Agrax, we're starting to get somewhere, but we're not quite there yet. So now we're going to go back to our light sand. We're going to get some more out here on our palette. We're going to get some more on our dry brush. And we're going to do a quick dry brush of this, but we're going to be very controlled about it. You know, dry brushing is often a dirty word in miniature painting, I think. A lot of people frown on it, but when it comes to things like natural, weathered, you know, stone and brick and stuff like that, it should be your favorite word. So we're going to take it, and we're just going to lightly dry brush. Oops. Just very lightly. I'm putting barely any pressure on. I'm letting the model do the work for me. Okay? You can see how I caught the edges there. Right? Okay. That's it. Just that light. We're not looking to move the world here. Wipe off our dry brush. And call it a day. All right. Now, next up, Kalahari Orange. If you've watched any of my videos, you know this is one of my favorite colors. It works on bone. It works on wood. It works on brick. That's right. This rich orange, wonderful tone is just one of the best colors in the world, and we're going to use it again. So, we're going to take our Kalahari Orange. We're going to thin it just a little. Nice wet brush, nothing too big. It's already a fairly thin color. But we're not really going to do anything else with it. And then we're going to go in and over where we dry brushed, we're going to start pushing that Kalahari Orange over that white spot. And the trick is, the Kalahari Orange will just barely move the red, if at all. But over that white, it's just going to show through magnificently, right? So you can see, look at that. Look at that on camera. Oh, that's fantastic. That's just wonderful. That's really coming out great. So you can see how I'm just dragging it over that white. As slowly that white goes away, but what's in its place is this wonderful orange, rich red orange. Right? So there we go. That's pretty great. It's a slight thing, but again, when it comes to trying to do these natural things that have a lot, like brick itself has a lot of variation in it, we very much want to be pushing those tones around. A lot of variation. Look at that. So now we've got some nice orange variants in our brick, and you notice it's not even, right? I didn't like try to make every brick the same amount of orange. Of course, because why would I? These things, if you've ever seen normal brick, there's lots of variance in the color. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we take a little more of the Agrax, because I want to get some darker shadow here at points. So instead of running it over everything, I'm going to go back into my Agrax, and I'm going to do a little bit more of a controlled wash with it. Down here in the shadows, right? I'm just going to kind of push it down here. Again, I'm not trying to move the world. I'm trying to create some visual interest on the base. This is the kind of thing that just makes it look more weathered, more worn, where, you know, water or mud or something has built up and stained the earth down here at this divot, right? Okay. So you can see that nice shadow that creates, right? And again, that just pushes the same thing out there. Okay. So, now, I'm going to let that dry, again, because it's going to take a minute to dry. And I'm going to, well, it might even dry fast enough that I can just talk through what I'm going to do next. Because I didn't do a lot. We're going to come back to Agrax again in the future. Alright, so next up, our good old friend Rust. Now, I like Game Effects Rust. You can use any Rust color. You can use Vallejo Bright Orange. You could use, like, the dry Rust, or the Riser Rust, or whatever out of Citadel. It really doesn't matter. You just need this bright orange. Okay. I don't know what you could replace Kalahari Orange with. You could probably mix it yourself in some way, but it is a very unique color in the world, I will say that. So we're going to just get a little bit of that rust because this stuff is powerful. Okay, once again, we're going to get out our handy dandy dry brush. We're going to get a little bit of that orange on the edge of that dry brush. Not a lot. We're going to wipe that almost completely off. We do not want a lot on there. Okay. Now we're going to take it and we're just going to kind of work it in there. And I'm going to stab it a little here and there too. And I'm doing that, you see, like I'm just literally attacking it. Probably making the camera shake. That looks a little more orange in reality, but don't worry, we'll clean that up. Okay? It looks a little more orange on camera. All right. So now we've added just a little more to it. And you can kind of stab it in there. You can kind of stipple it around, right? Okay. So now we got just a little more color in there. Now we're going to go back to that Agrax one more time. Well, it's not even the last time. Almost the last time. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace out some individual bricks here where we had done some stuff. So now this is my lightest touch with the wash because I'm literally just trying to collect it on an interesting pattern out here to break up this area. So I'm trying to create light to dark to a little bit lighter to a little bit darker, right? That's the key. Creating this little path of sort of interest keeps the base more interesting, keeps your brick looking more natural. And then you can kind of wipe your brush and just kind of smooth out that part. All right, so there we go. Now we're going to let all that dry, and then we're going to do our final step. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, and we're back for the final step. So you can see there it's all dry. Look at that. Some great, I love the variation here. You can see like some darker bricks, some lighter bricks. This is exactly what we're going for. We've got some nice light edges. We've got a little bit of orange. We've got reds. We've got browns. Got a lot of great colors in here. This is what we wanted. Okay, so what's our final step? Well, yeah, as always with anything I do when I do these videos, you can kind of stop wherever you want, right? But here, there's one final thing you can do, okay? And that is to put some more texture or dirt onto this. As it stands right now, this brick is still kind of clean, maybe a little too much so. So if you want, you can take something like your Vallejo pigments. You could even use like a typhus corrosion, something like that. Something that's got solid matter to it, right? In this case, I'm going to grab a little typhus corrosion, or a little of the natural sienna, which is a wonderful light color. And we're going to put a little of it onto here, okay? And we're going to do so using a rather different item to adhere it. Namely, we're going to use the Agrax Earthshade. The trick with pigment is when you just get it out here, like if I just get out this sienna on a brush and just kind of spread it around, right? And just kind of touch it here and there. Like I can knock it off my brush. You see how much that shows up. But I can really push that in there. Right, kind of spread it around. Or wipe it. Get it to the point where it's where I want, right? And then what I can do is to get that to set, I can just go to my Agrax, because the key is that's never going to really stick there. But if I go to like my Agrax, I can run a little of that over it, and that'll actually act as a sort of varnish, a medium to just hold that in place. And it can help add that like dustiness to it, right? So you can just kind of play with those textures a little more. All that kind of stuff is just more fun stuff you can do. I like playing with pigments. I think it's fun to try to mess around with some more natural sort of mass and dust. If you've already got some down, some like, you can see how much that just goes. If you've already got some medium on there, you could just take it and kind of, touch it just a little. You can kind of push it around. It's an interesting thing to work with the pigments. You can go big, you can go small. Like I could kind of put some out here on the edge. Just kind of create a dusty edge, right? But it works well. This sienna color works very nicely with the already natural oranges and reds of the brick. And again, if it feels too strong, that's a little orangey color balance on the screen. But if it feels too strong, you can always just, before you set it, you can wipe it off. If you don't want to add any color to it, you could always just set it using a matte varnish or a matte medium or anything like that. That's just clear, and it'll just lock it in place. You can also mix it even with alcohol and apply it with alcohol, and that will also work. So there's lots of choices. You just need something to hold the varnish in place. You don't want to just something to hold the pigment in place. You don't want to just throw pigment on there. And then the final thing I'm going to do to make sure this is nice and ready to go, so we got our nice brick, is the last thing I want to do is make sure that some of my individual bricks are really well defined. Okay? So for that, we're going to get out our Nuln Oil. The only time we're going to use black in this whole thing, although Nuln Oil is a very brown black, so it'll work fine. And we're going to get a little brush with a little more of a tip. And what I'm going to do is just very carefully where, paint or other things might have gotten in there, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to just carefully grab some of those in-betweens. Just let that kind of flow in there. Now in this case, I'm actually using the Nuln Oil instead of my usual Vallejo dark gray, because I really want this to be this black-brown color that the Nuln Oil is. It's a little darker the way it dries, and that's what I'm aiming at. I'm not going to do every single thing because I don't want it to be. I want there to be some natural variance in this. So I'm just going to do kind of parts of it here and there. Just make sure my bricks are nice and well defined at various points. Like especially these little, cracks and holes in it and stuff. Okay. And there we go. Now we've got some nice traced out bricks. We've got some texture. We've got some color. We've got a lot going on. So that's how I do really weathered looking brick that's been outdoors. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, give it a little like. There's always more hobby cheating to come, so feel free to subscribe. We'd love to have you along on the hobby journey. And if you're watching this before Sunday, August 14th, right now I have a model in Tyler Mengel's painting competition. It's this guy right here. Hey there, big guy. There he is. He barely fits on camera. There he is. He is listed as Spirit of Durthu #2. And I'm very proud of him and how he looks. And I'll throw a link down there below. You can vote for me in the People's Choice Awards, and I'd love to have your vote. So go check it out. Just find the big old black, blue, and fire tree man. Hello. He's happy to see you. All right, but thanks for watching very much, and as always, we'll see you next time.